In this video, I want to tell you what it takes to build an incredible mix on a cassette recorder machine. I know that probably sounds Neolithic to some of you, but I don't have much of a choice when I've recorded the songs for my upcoming EP entirely to a cassette. And I happen to think that you can get a good sounding mix using the controls on this device. Of course, those controls don't give you as much control as you would have using a DAW, but in fact, maybe that amount of control isn't necessary. So I'm going to show you how I would get ready to do a mix of a song using one of the songs on this tape, and then I'm going to perform the mix for you to see. First, let's take a step back and talk about what I'm really trying to accomplish when I say I'm going to mix this song. I have 4 tracks of audio recorded to this cassette tape. I recorded them using this Tascam 424 Mark II Portastudio. The sounds already live here, but this isn't an especially good format for getting sounds to you. For one thing, it's 4 independent tracks. They haven't been arranged into the stereo or maybe even mono sound that you're expecting to hear. And the second is like that this is a physical tape, and this is not a very effective way to share the sounds. Instead, I need to make a digital version of the sounds that are on this tape by recording them onto a computer, like the one down there, using an audio interface. I'm going to get most of the sounds from the tracks that have been recorded to this tape, but I'm also going to be adding one new sound into the mix, one sound that hasn't already been recorded. This is a step that people don't even think about if they're used to using a DAW, but back in the day when people were recording with a limited set of tracks, it was actually quite common to add new elements to a mix during mixing. But for purposes of this video, all you need to know is that I can add additional elements to the mix by recording them live through the line outputs and the audio interface into Audacity if I plug them in and run them at the same time. And that could include any new elements. I could track more background vocals, I could shake a shaker, but instead I'm just going to add a layer of reverb to these tracks. To do that, I've connected the first effects send out to this Alesis Quadriverb. It's running a variation of the King's Chamber setting, which I've called the Queen's Chamber. It's just King's Chamber with absolutely no dry mix, so it's fully wet. And the outputs from the Quadriverb are being run into inputs 5 and 6. And the volume of what comes in on those inputs can be controlled using this trim right here. I also have a switch here, which gives me the option of routing those sounds either just to the monitor mix or to the left and right sides of the, there's a word there that I'm not really remembering, but if I go to LNR, that's how I'm going to send it actually through the line outputs. And of course, if I set this switch to off right in the center, it acts as a dam on the sound that would be coming through. And let me pause here to give you a little tip. There's no mute button anywhere on this machine, but you can use these switches at the top to do the same thing. If I toggle to the off position on this switch and leave it in the off position, then it doesn't matter what I've recorded here. This channel is going to reproduce no sound, at least until I flip it over to tape. It's a crude but effective way to implement muting. But now I want all of these channels set to tape because I need to play back some sounds and decide if I like where the levels are and if I like how I've EQ'd the sounds. I did some pre-production for this video. I've drawn little white lines next to some of the faders to give me a general idea of where I want the volumes, but I'm going to reconsider those levels as I start to tinker with some of the EQ. Now, you may be wondering, Jordan, why are you listening through that little red speaker, that like $10 red speaker you bought on Amazon, instead of these beautiful monitors? And the answer is because, in my experience, shitty little speakers like this do a pretty good job of helping you identify problems in a mix. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to identify problems and solve them rather than to chase some imagined idea of an optimal sound. I might then check the results of the changes that I've made using another monitoring system. And it sounds pretty good there too. But I find that in better monitoring systems, it's easier to get lost in the details of your sound. For example, I performed a mix yesterday in which I was really focused on the level of the reverb that I was adding to these tracks. And I overlooked the fact that one of the 2 electric guitars was just way too loud. That volume imbalance would have been obvious if I had been monitoring with this little device because it essentially reproduces the sounds in mono. They're smashed on top of each other and you can tell when things are competing with the vocal. So I put a lot of faith in this when I decide where to set things in the mix. I guess all that's left is to actually perform the mix down of this song. And because you're listening, I guess I will turn on these nice speakers. Recording, play. suitcase full of summer. Follow the pink bricks to your door. Coast breeze blows every autumn, and we float like leaves into each other's arms. Whoa, lights go on. Whoa, flickering on. Matches cover the floor, and we burn like we've never blown it before. Your hair is still wet when I hug. I smell the shampoo in your curl. Breeze blows every autumn, and we float like leaves into each other's arms. Whoa, lights go on. Whoa, flickering on. Matches cover the floor, and we burn like we've never blown it before. Sigh beneath the cave of blankets and begin to drift. Drift apart, drift apart, drift apart. Whoa, lights go on. Whoa, flickering on. Matches cover the floor, and we burn like never blown it before, blown it before. Gotta bring up the background. Blown it before, blown it before. Okay, we did it. Let's listen back. Left my suitcase full of summer. Okay, what I'm listening for and really liking is the balance of sounds in this mix. There are details that are not coming through on this device, but I don't think those details are really going to hurt me, at least compared to the pain that I would feel if one element was out of whack compared to the others. And that is enough to make me feel pretty confident that that mix is going to be the final mix. Though as always, trust and then verify, I'm also going to listen to the mix using other monitoring sources. And the final test will probably be actually to save the digital version of this song and then play it back in my car. I guess that's old school, but I do think the best way to test a song is just to blast it in a car. And if it sounds good there, I feel like it'll sound good anywhere. But I'm going to do all that stuff on my own time. And thank you for your time watching this video. I hope that this was entertaining. If it was, let me know what you liked, what you didn't like, what you do when you mix in a device like this. And as always, I hope you're doing well. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you around.